The Edible Bean School on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by Hensel Co-op.
We're focusing on the final stage before harvest here on this episode of the Edible Bean School together with Hensel Co-op, and pleased to be joined by Warren McCutcheon, a farmer here near Carman, Manitoba. And Warren, when it comes to this last stage, some producers undercut. In some bean varieties, bean types, the option is there for direct harvest. Tell us about what you're doing in the field here today.
Today we're doing a Pickett One Step system. We've kind of done everything. We've done the straight cut, we've done knifing, windrowing, and we've kind of moved to this in certain conditions. We know it's not going to work all the time, but right now it's a little bit dry on top. It's nice and loose. And this system works fantastic in those conditions. We've got a bean that's kind of, it's really growthy, it's flopped over, there's pods on the ground. Just doesn't work great direct harvesting, so we find this is the best way to do it. And we kind of want to leave no bean behind, kind of is our motto in edibles here, especially these light red kidneys are really valuable. And we're thinking we're getting almost everything here with this system. All right.
We're going to speak with Brady Olson of Pickett in just a moment, but why don't you tell us how this machine works, what the One Step does?
Yeah, no problem. So up front, we have a cutter up front on the front of the tractor just to cut around the tires. So we knife around the tires. I know Pickett has their own system as well, a factory system that you can use that more, it just directs them around the tires instead of cutting them. But this is the system that we've used up front. And then in behind, when we come into here, it's basically two bars that go under the ground, and they're turning kind of at ground speed. And then it's pulling the beans up onto the pickup here. It's an 8-bar tooth pickup here, pulling them up and then onto the canvas, and then we're windrowing into 20-foot sections here. So we do 20 feet going one way, 20 feet coming back the other way, and then the combine will pick up 40 feet.
So when you're operating the tractor and in the field here, what are you paying attention to in the cab?
Well, first thing is to stay on the row. It's like anything, right? So this makes it a little bit easier. When we're just cutting and windrowing, you have to be very accurate. Our tolerance is very minimal on the knife. This one's a little bit better. We can set them back a little bit. It's not as important to do a great job of cutting because this is doing it for us. And there is a lot more wiggle room with the One Step because the bars are going all the way across the machine. So when the bars are going all the way across the machine, your tolerance for driving is a little bit less. So that's a lot better on operator fatigue and when we're working late nights, early mornings with this thing, that's a big deal for us. But then once we're going up and down the field, there's a few things that we really keep an eye on. One would just be consistent flow. Canvas will be the first thing that'll plug on us normally in a good crop. A poorer crop, you just kind of, speed is your limiting factor of how fast you can pick them up. But hopefully that's not a problem. This year, crop so far is good. We have a fairly good amount of material there. So the first thing that we'll see is the canvas will plug if we're going too fast or we're overloading it. So everything just kind of wants to flow gently. We want to be able to have the bars running at a certain speed, our ground speed that's feeding it properly, and then the pickup feeding it, and then getting it off the canvas in a consistent fashion because we want to be able to feed that combine with a consistent swath as well.
Of course, all these operations, depth is important as well, and I guess if you're too high, you're going to leave beans behind, and too low, you're going to get too much soil on the back.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've got adjustable depth wheels here, and you can tell right away. We try to run it as shallow as we can without leaving any beans. If we get a little bit too high, the bars will kind of run over top of the beans. You'll see it right away in behind, especially with a colored bean like this. We'll see it in the soil right away. You'll see the little red beans in the soil behind, and if we're missing some right away, we can make some adjustments and put it in a little bit. Certain land makes a big difference too. Like anything, harvesting, this field's a little bit more of a sandy loam kind of soil. Always makes it a little bit easier. We get into some more of a clay loam soil. You're pulling up a few more chunks. It pulls a little bit harder. We're getting a little more dirt on the roots. But out here, the one we're doing right now it's fairly simple.
How important is the hilling or ridging that happens during the growing season?
For sure, we found that the better hill we put on them with a row crop cultivator in season makes a big difference. Out here, just with our really dry conditions we had this year, we didn't want to touch these fields at all. We didn't want to dry them out any more than we had to. It was really hard. There's not a lot we could do with it. So we had a little window. Kind of the beans were maybe half filled a 30-inch row in, and we just went through. We went kind of 6-7 mile an hour as fast as we could and threw a hill at them. Just did it once, just enough to get us a hill that we could harvest. The bar runs right under the hill, and cuts right into the beans a lot better if we can put a hill on them.
All right. Finally, then, Warren, in terms of staging, how do you determine when to go and take this machine into the field here?
Yeah, it kind of depends whether we're doing a pre-harvest desiccant or not, or if the field's dried down naturally, or what the forecast looks like. This isn't a machine that you want to get a rain on right away, or even 3 or 4 days from now. Ideally, we do this step and then we can harvest them before we get any rain. By putting them in those tight windrows, they're fairly solid and they're 40 feet. They don't dry out very well, especially if we get into September in the shorter days and cool nights and things like that. It can be a battle. We've been caught before putting them in windrows and then having to move them again to try to dry them out. So this is one where we try to hold off as long as we can, maybe within 5 days of harvest, and then go in here one step these beans and then get them through the combine as soon as we can.
Thanks for your time and letting us visit the field here, Warren.
You bet. Thank you.
All right, from the field, we now head down to Burley, Idaho, the headquarters of Pickett Equipment, where we're joined by Brady Olson, the general manager of Pickett Equipment here on the Edible Bean School. And Brady, the first of all, thanks for joining us. The One Step machine has been around for a few years. Why don't you tell us a bit about the background, the thought that went into this design for this final stage before harvest in edible beans?
Yeah, Kelvin, thanks for having me on here. It's a pleasure to be able to talk about the history of Pickett Equipment, something I'm passionate about. It started back into probably the 1970s. So a guy by the name of Steve Pickett. Many of you guys that are out there in the bean world are very aware of who Steve Pickett is. He and his father, they were working in the field, and they had the old, just an old rod weeder. And there were a couple other companies that had come up with just the conveyor concept with that. And in fact, there was a time when the rod weeder and the conveyor were two separate product lines from two different manufacturers. And what had happened is they gone through and they made the design to combine them all together. So that's where Steve and his dad took the idea. The concept was already there, and created their own product line that really just worked out really well that way. So they took the rod weeder, the pickup head, and the conveyor and combined it all into one. This was hit into the market, and it was marketed as a way of one man, one pass, kind of getting rid of the idea of going through the field with the old knife systems or whatever other methods that you had there, and then conveying them afterwards. So it was really a revolutionary thing for that day and age.
And certainly the gentleness that it handles the beans, that's one thing with bean harvest and prepping for harvest. That's always a key component of what we're trying to accomplish on the field is not causing any unnecessary damage to the beans, right?
Yep, absolutely. So the One Step itself is designed to handle it with a lot of finesse. The pickup head is very unique in what it does, considering to like a hay head or something like that, to where it has an action to the way that it picks it up. It'll pick it up from down low, and it can go slow, and then it has an action where it kind of pitches it at the very top to go over onto our conveyors or onto the rollers that then transfer it back. The other part about it is that it is all built on more of a skeletal type frame. Primary purpose for that is to allow for foreign objects, dirt especially, to sift through that entire time when we are pulling the beans from the field. Dirt is an enemy. We want to get that out as quick as possible. So,
Finally, then, Brady, any top tips for running this machine? We just heard from Warren as he walked us through what he's paying attention to while he's in the tractor cab in the field. Any tips for operating and maintaining and keeping a One Step operating at in top condition?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest mistakes that I see out there is when we don't seem to be getting the cut or the pull that we think should be happening. The natural tendency is to speed up the rod. The rod is not a way of cutting. We're not cutting beans, right? That's a common terminology. But what we are doing is we're pulling beans. And the way that the rod weeder works is by utilizing the hard corners that are on that 1 1/4 inch rod. I know some of the older machines have a 1 inch on there. But with that going through the field at a slow pace, it allows for each corner to really just break up the soil and the roots to fall freely out of that plant. That's probably the number one thing there. Rod depth is also something that's there. You don't want to be too deep. You don't want to be too shallow. So it's really a game of fine tuning. And I guess that's my last piece of advice is that you make an adjustment and allow it to prove to you what has been done with your adjustment. Give it some time. Don't go back to the field to make another adjustment immediately. A lot of times you'll end up double crossing. You won't know where to start again.
All right. Thanks for your time today, Brady, and all the best with the edible bean harvest down there in Idaho, and everybody else joining us watching this edition of the Edible Bean School. All the best with harvest, whether you're cutting or pulling, if we want to be more correct in our terminology. Thank you, Brady.
I appreciate it, Kelvin. Thank you. Have a good day.
I should have said I come in the field when my Hensel guy tells me to.
Yeah.